Am I live? I think I am. Bear with me here a minute, folks. I'm doing this in the middle of the night. It's like right at 2 a.m. I'm like that excited bride. You know what I'm talking about? That excited bride. And I'm going to share this around a bit. There you go. All right. So just give me a moment here to get things kind of together. We're going to put it out there. That's what you got to do, right? You got to get it out there. So we're going to get this where I can help out as many people as possible. All right? You betcha. So a lot of people are rescheduling their weddings, and they're feeling more comfortable about things. I encourage everybody, though, as they go through this and their planning and so forth, to kind of keep an open mind with it, because we don't know what will happen next. We certainly would like to think that most of it's behind us, but we need to kind of just keep an open mind. So my intent on doing these is to be, to help as many people as I can. I inadvertently later in life became a wedding expert. I've done a lot of weddings, and I've seen weddings go from so to now. It's a huge industry. When I was younger, most weddings were, church weddings, hardcore. There was no big weddings. There were venues. What we've got now is a whole different world than just 2 or 3 decades ago. It really took off, and the world dramatically changed in the world of weddings. In my previous live stream, Weddings, Ask a Wedding Pro, I talked mostly about the basic components of a traditional ceremony. And I make clear with every couple I've ever served, with everybody at weddings, in weddings, there's a lot of tradition. What you see in this picture behind me depicts a lot of tradition. There are no rules. It's tradition. Tradition holds not, some of it's not ancient history tradition, the white dress, the veil, all these components kind of morphed into what you see today. A lot of people don't even have a idea where it came from, and it don't really matter. We don't always know and concern ourselves with why do we wear a white dress. If you think a white dress has some kind of purity, that's not where the white dress came from. If it makes you feel good to think that, there's no harm in that. Um, but there are a lot of people that contain themselves in this box because they feel this is the way we've got to do it. I've got an older neighbor that just cannot understand why a bride cannot get married to anybody. A white dress, she's got to wear a white dress. And historically speaking, that just was not the case. As I brought up in an earlier live stream, what we've got in our traditions of weddings is we built a whole industry around this. The Bears Diamond Company is the one that promoted the diamond engagement ring. It had nothing to do with romantic, it had to do with profit. And unfortunately, we're still into that capitalist society, pretty much a capitalist world now, and it all boils down to money. So the diamond ring came from the Bears Diamond Company. They're the ones that created the marketing campaign. Diamond is a girl's best friend. They invented those. That was their marketing plan. It worked. And nobody questions, why doesn't the man get an engagement ring? Why is it just a woman? And of course, there's history behind why that is so. There's nothing wrong if you want the diamond ring. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. That's not the point of me bringing that to your attention. I bring it to your attention so that you feel comfortable realizing that you don't have to go that way if you don't want to. You have to first realize that everything you do on your wedding day, everything you plan for on your wedding day, only affects that. It does not affect your marriage. Marriage is created in the heart. That's where marriage comes from. That's where it happens. The rest is rituals we perform and legal obligations with the state. Understanding the reality of that hopefully can relax you as a couple in what you're doing. It's still going to be a somewhat stressful day. Not a lot of people like being the center of attention. So going through this, knowing that all eyes are going to be on you, that you're sharing this most intimate thing called love in front of all these people in such a public fashion. And that indeed is what a ceremonial wedding is all about, is making a public declaration of your love and commitment to each other. That's exactly what a wedding, the declaration has already taken place privately. A lot of people know about it. The wedding is designed to share that, family, friends, and so forth. So there is no legal obligation for all of this. When you deal with photography, videography, the white dresses, the rented tuxes, the rented venue, all that run into tens of thousands of dollars, just be mindful that there's no obligation to any of that. It does not enhance the wedding. It does not enhance the marriage. Let me get that straight. The book you see right here, it's hard to see it in that small picture, but I cover this in that book. And there's a lot of tips on weddings in my book. It's found on Amazon.com. There's a lot of tips about weddings, but also a very pragmatic view towards the difference between weddings and marriage. Keep in mind that a wedding is designed to celebrate what has already taken place in the heart. That is making a public declaration of already what's been settled in the heart between two people. You fell in love. You decided that this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. The commitment is made, and then you set a day aside for two purposes: to make that public declaration, to share this moment, to share this ritual that we customarily do, and then to get the contract with the state, basically, the legal part of the marriage done. Now, with all that said, I want to make it very clear, I am not a wedding vendor's best friend by any shot. I'm the bride's best friend. I am here for the couple. So I'm going to talk to you as an adult, as a person who has been involved in weddings and counseling for decades. And I'm going to talk to you that really emphasizes that you can enjoy this wedding day. You can invest everything you can afford to invest in this wedding day. You can have photographs of this wedding day. You can have the first dances. You can have all of this. As long as you understand, and you've got to understand, that this, number one, does not create the marriage, and number two, does not enhance the marriage. Okay? I would be remiss not to emphasize that strongly. It is customary that we do these things. It's more customary today than it was before. My parents were Christian. Back then, they didn't even, a lot of times, even do a church wedding. They were more frugal. They lived within their budgets better than we do. They did not depend on credit like we do now. They were more practical, partly because they had to be, and partly because it was a practical thing to do. So my parents got married at the courthouse. Way back, I don't remember the exact year. I wasn't around, but I think it was in the 30s, somewhere around in there. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. But they got married. They didn't tell anybody they were going to the courthouse to get married. They didn't even have a photograph taken the day of their marriage. None of the above. But guess what? They stayed together till the day they died. They had no other partners in life. Their marriage lasted. So, with all that said, and as I'll emphasize throughout this, because a lot of people feel pressured. Make no mistake about it. A lot of people feel pressured that they've got to do this and got to do that. I want to take that pressure away. These are voluntary components of a wedding. You don't have to have any pictures if you don't. Some people are not into pictures. Most of the time, most of the couples after the first year or two or three hardly ever look at those pictures. Keep in mind also, and I will talk about photographs here a little bit. Photographs a lot of times end up being one of the most expensive components of the wedding. Some of these photographers charge into the thousands of dollars. But if you look at the wedding pictures, they have these standard shots. Nothing greatly unique about it. It's almost like if you've seen one wedding, you've seen them all. It's sad. There's nothing, they're not representing the individuality of this couple. They're not celebrating the uniqueness of this couple. It's all like a bunch of carbon copies. There are standing jokes within the circle of wedding professionals. They go through fads with like processional songs. So used to it was the Canon D, the standard bridal march. You hardly ever hear that anymore. Then we went into Train, Marry Me. Now, in the last 3 or 4 years, we heard 1,000 Years, the instrumental version, normally at a wedding for the bridal march. And then you go to the knot.com or weddingwire.com, you register at any of these sites, you register and you buy any of the journals. And what's hot in weddings? What's the fad in weddings? What's the trend? What's trending in weddings? Why would I want to just mimic what everybody else is doing? It's just like naming your child. What's the most popular name for a child in 2020? I personally would not want to name my child whatever other child is being named. I personally would want my wedding to represent me and not be a carbon copy of everybody else's. For some reason we do that. Not always. There are those exceptions. Unfortunately, those exceptions are very rare. People tend to be ultra traditionalist. and afraid to step out of the box. Uh, when I do weddings, I write the script. I learn something about the couple. I learn their quirks. I learn how they met. I learn their hobbies. And I script this ceremony around who they are. So 90% of the time, when the guests, the parents, and everybody have heard this ceremony, they sit there for this 20 minutes or so and witness this ceremony, they're kind of blown away. That was very powerful. This movie, I've never heard those kind of words at a wedding before. And I think that's important. I think what you do at your wedding should be that. Now, that clearly is up to you. If you want, like this couple here, and fine couple, they have their wedding day. I'm not knocking any of that, except to say, I want you to go into your wedding knowing that you don't have to look like that. You don't have to mimic what everybody else is doing. You don't have to care what's trending. And I've seen it over the years. We went from one year, everybody was using mason jars for drinking out of, and everybody had burlap. Burlap was everywhere. So we went through that phase. And then we'll go through another phase. And you customarily see this. But then you get that rare wedding where the bride says, I'm not interested in that. Those are the ones that are memorable. Those are the ones that build memories because they're unique, they reflect who the couple is. And the reason I emphasize that this wedding ceremony does not create the marriage. You're going to be working on the marriage the rest of your life. I've seen it over and over. There's one venue that I do a lot of weddings at, and there are more divorces coming out of that venue than any other. Now, why would that be? Why would the people that own the venue, they're not putting curses on these couples. The people that run the venue are not wishing these couples would fall apart. Why would this one venue have all an out of proportion number of divorces of couples who got married there getting divorced compared to other venues? It's a real simple question to answer. I'm not going to name the venue. I'm not going to go that direction. I don't want to jinx anybody. It's just a fact. It's because the setting is unique, and it is more of a situation of show and superficiality than other venues. So if you choose that particular venue, you're in a situation that's a little bit more flashy. It's outstandingly different. It's not your common, out here, and it's just very unique. Picturesque, there's no doubt about it. So when you've got that level of superficiality going into your marriage, you're showing your priorities in life. It becomes the thing. It's showing your priorities. And so chances are you're going to wake up one day and not everything's rosy, and you begin to really see the flaws of your partner. And things start breaking down because up to that moment, it was all about the show. So let's step back. You're in your 20s. And I want to clarify a couple of things that go along here. The majority of weddings that take place today are not, in my generation, they were 18 to 21. People were getting married left and right. Nowadays, people are in their upper 20s and 30s before they get in their first marriage. Really. Upper 20s and 30s is the average anymore. And it's not uncommon to see a lot of 40s and 50s and into their second and third marriages. Common, unfortunately. I, I say unfortunately. In one note, it's glad you find love again. Okay, but when you're not looking at the depth, you're looking at the superficial. You've gone along, you've had a hard time finding the right person. You meet, and there's this overwhelming experience. We go through this. The honeymoon period actually takes place before the honeymoon. So the phrase honeymoon is really misplaced because the honeymoon period is taking place long before the wedding takes place. The honeymoon period is when you're just still got the rose-colored glasses and you're going through this planning and, oh, I found somebody that loves me and he's so nice or she's so beautiful and this, that, and the other, and then building up to the wedding day. That's the honeymoon period. What we call a honeymoon, I know maybe one or two couples out of thousands that I feel pretty convinced that that they waited to a honeymoon, quote unquote, to get to have sex, to get that level of intimacy. That's, most of these couples together and so forth. No problem. As long as you realize that marriage takes place here. It doesn't take place with a piece of paper. It doesn't take place with a ceremony. Now, enough of that rant. I just want to make this clear because I hope it will help to level things out, that you can approach your wedding in a more practical, real way and be more relaxed with it. Because it is, number one, a public declaration of what's already taken place in the heart. It's not creating anything. It is a standing ritual that humans have been involved in for some time. It is in most cases of making it legal with a state government, entering into this contract, and it's sharing this experience. It's almost like a family reunion, the uniting of two families. Two families can spend this day in the reception getting to know each other. Oh, this is my cousin. This is now my new wife's cousin. Y'all get to know each other. This is my met my granddad, on and on and on. Families can get to know each other. It's a good thing if approached for the right reasons, okay? And a proper understanding of what a wedding is compared to what a marriage is. And again, I'm going to refer to that book right there that I wrote, Amazon.com. So this to me is very, very important. I just want, hold on a second. Okay. I think it's very important to know. There you go, creating a wedding or a marriage. So you're not, as long as you know that difference, then we can approach going into this wedding day in a whole different mindset. It opens up the day for more relaxation, for more fun, and the ability to not be burdened down with traditions, to do it literally the way you would like to have it done. Tradition started somewhere by somebody. Somebody sit down and started. You can look up for yourself where the white wedding gown came from in the 19th century. Prior to that, right there, brides would commonly just reach in their closet and get their best dress out. They didn't spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a dress they would only wear one time. They were a lot more frugal. Nowadays, that's a different program. And you see that even though this lady has on, and I'm not beating up these people, this is common. The bride has on this dress and the groom has on a suit. It doesn't matter, except it is aesthetically pleasing and it is the superficial part of the wedding day. So you have decided that you want this wedding. You now understand that I can kind of relax with this. There are a lot of books, a lot of wedding pros out there. There are wedding planners that will make you think you got to do this, you got to do that. Wedding cake, groom's cake, first dance, blah 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 blah. You feel pressured with all this. You don't have to feel pressured with any of it now that you understand what the wedding day is really all about. You can make that substantially different. Now, if you go through in what they have developed to get into your wedding day, you will find that they will tell you, and a lot of people this at a time, a lot of people do, but they have a list of things that you should do 9 months or earlier before your wedding date, and it's quite a lengthy list. Uh, Plan for the families to get together and discuss the wedding plans. Your parents, his parents. Uh, have a engagement photo session if you want to. If you want to. Um, House engagements in the newspaper, not that's not common anymore. We do things on the internet. Our announcements go through in emails and that kind of stuff. Create a blog or website to post wedding news. A lot of people do, most like the Knot, the Wedding Wire, different places offer free sites for brides because they're drawing you in to use vendors that are paying them to advertise on their site. And it is a good thing to where you can lead people to. They can keep track of any changes and that sort of thing. Discuss the budget. Very important. I can't argue that. You discuss your budget with each other, and what I found out is because the couples are getting married at an older age, late 20s into 30s, a lot of times the parents are not inputting that much into it. A lot of times the couple is paying for the wedding entirely on their own. The budget is very important to cover. Um, Pinterest has been a hot item. I don't know if it's as hot as it was a few years ago, but it's still there. A lot of people go to Pinterest to get ideas. Of course, select your date. For selecting a date, you've got to take in mind the availability of those. It's very important to be there. Is your best man going to be available? Is your parents going to be available? Is grandparents going to be available on this date? Is there any conflict of a schedule? And then, is there particular wedding vendors that you've already decided you want to use? Are they available? Uh, of course, hiring a wedding consultant. That is done, I would, not as often as I would have thought. And I can understand. When I found out what wedding planners, wedding consultants, and day of coordinators charged, I was I was blown away. I could get that. I could for what day of wedding planner, day of wedding director. Some of them are charging. I can get your whole wedding done. Okay, and a nice wedding. I'm not talking about a horrible wedding. I'm not talking about a cheap wedding. Decent, nice wedding that's just as aesthetically pleasing as. So shop around. Think about what you're doing. Your attendance, and you should really, when you're asking around about, unless there's a date that's very important to you, for some there is. For some, it's like we met on the 12th of July of 2017, so we want to get to the 12th of July of whatever because it happens to fall on Saturday. Those kind of things, sure. But otherwise, if people are very important to you in regards to this wedding day, I think that they should be discussed with whoever the bridesmaids, groomsmen, that should be involved in this figuring your date out. Start working on your guest list and then your venue. Most weddings take place the same place the reception takes place. So normally you don't have to look for two different places. It happens, but it's very, very rare. Most places, there's so many places to get married. There's so many wedding venues anymore that, yeah, you've got that all in one place. Weather permitting, you usually get married outside, and then you go inside for the reception, blah, blah, blah. Most of them have some grounds that you can take pictures outdoors as well as indoors. The rain is bad. Make sure that they've got a alternative plan. Most of the plans for inclement weather when it comes to a wedding, if you're planning outside, most of the plans are to have the wedding in where the reception room is, and they just flip it for the reception after they've had the wedding. Now, I've done a lot of weddings that were inside, and they did not flip it. They had the guests just sit at the tables during the ceremony, so there was no flipping. It just rolled smoothly. Some people like the idea of destination wedding, go to the beach or whatever. I've had a couple come down from Illinois to get married, never been to Alabama before. They came down to Alabama to get away because their wedding was getting out of control, too many people intruding upon their desires, and they decided it was too much a headache. They want a nice, sweet wedding with just their immediate family, and they did a destination wedding. And of course, way ahead of time, hire your wedding minister, officiant, whatever, and find out the laws in your state, in your area, to get married. Very important, because times have changed somewhat. Find out what the fees are, what the process is. The fees are far from standard from state to state. The process is very similar outside of Alabama. Alabama's got the most unique rules for getting married. The rest of the states are pretty uniform. I don't know of any states that are left that do any blood testing. I don't know of any states that require you to wait anymore. You go to probate court, probate office in any county of any state to get your marriage license, and you have to go together to get the marriage license, and whatever their fee is. And normally, as soon as they issue a license, you can get married 5 minutes later. A lot of places you'll find a wedding minister hanging around the courthouse looking for people to marry. That's how quick it can happen. Then you get into catering, you get into the music, musicians. Do you want a band, musicians, or DJ, whatever? And then, of course, the dress. All right. Now, that is 9 months, what they suggest, or earlier. Quite a checklist that early in the game. Then we get down to the 6 to 9 month time frame, and this is the idealistic way to approach this. There's no rules. You don't have to have a photographer. It was common 4 or 5 years ago that people were just letting people take pictures with their phone. They would use a special hashtag, and there's even apps designed that you get everybody to load, and they take pictures. They get all the pictures from their guest. Saved them a ton of money. Hadn't seen that in a while, but that was pretty popular for a while. Now we're back to hiring photographers. So you book a photographer, book a videographer, book a florist, do your online shopping for what other vendors and so forth. And then, of course, you got to get your groomsmen and your maids of honor and so forth. What are they going to wear? Now, on the groomsmen and bridesmaids, I've done a lot of weddings where they did not have a wedding party. It was just the bride and groom. Myself, bride and groom, and guest. The last wedding I did was just like that. Just as married as any other couple. It was a beautiful ceremony. Nobody was dead. It was very simply planned. Didn't have to worry about dresses for them and suits for them and all this kind of stuff. Didn't even have to have a rehearsal. Went beautifully. There's a video of it. There's photography of it. You got it. Just there again. A wedding is that ceremony. That's the wedding. That 20-minute, what you see in that picture behind me, that's the wedding. The rest of it is the peripheral. The rest of it is the party. That's not the wedding. That's the wedding reception. In the Bible, it's called the wedding feast. So if you keep your a level head with all this, you can get more relaxed about what you do and more thoughtful about how you spend your money. I'm not a wedding vendor's best friend. I don't try to be. I'm here to serve a couple, and I'm here to advise them in a way that they can make better, conscious decisions without feeling pressured, because there's going to be all this pressure. Now, I provide, over the years, I've added on music and photography and video and so forth. And I do that started at a necessity for brides that had problems with DJs and this, that, and other. Um, I don't push any of that. But when you start dealing, here's this wedding planner, and she has done weddings, and she's well connected. She knows 5 DJs, and she knows 6 photographers, and she knows 12 venues, and they got their favorites, and they're trying to help each other out. In fact, in Birmingham, for I don't know if they still do it, they had this group that met once a month or so. They were Alabama Wedding Pros or something like that. I don't know if they're still around or not. They're there to help each other out, and you know, it's a DJ, my friend so and so, I highly recommend this guy. And that's all good. Earlier in the game, I used to get referrals by different people that I met doing weddings. Kind of died. I'm not a wedding vendor's best friend. Not at all, because I'm going to look out for the couple. Financially, I'm going to look out for the couple. I'm more interested in their marriage. I want them to have a good day. You read my reviews, I put a lot into that 20-minute ceremony. I don't want to take away from the celebration that they're going to enjoy that day. But the underlying thing all the way through this is I'm more interested in them getting off into their marriage. And I'm going to let them know the words I use. This does not create your marriage. This does not create your marriage. This is a ritual that we have developed to make a public declaration of what's already taken place in the heart. If you go through these lists of things that your wedding planner is going to put in your face, it's more than just a little overwhelming. It will run into tens of thousands of dollars. Wedding photographers, on an average, I've seen minimum $1,800 to $2,500 and up. And that's like for a 4-hour shoot, and then that's waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get your digital prints back. Videographers, $1,200 to $2,200 for an event, and it becomes just a highlight reel. And that's fine. They really beef it up. It looks good. It shows good. It's a very short video, and I guess maybe they give you some other raw video with it. So right there, just in the pictures and a video, you can spend minimum $4,000, $6,000, $8,000. It can run astronomical. Goes on into infinity. And these girls, like I say girls because it's mostly girls that do this, a lot of them, and you got to be careful. I'm just telling you from experience, a lot of them cannot see outside this bubble. They have this manual of the way that they were trained, the way to think, and especially, well, I don't know how it is in other parts of the country. I just know that we're in a very conservative state. We're big into tradition, and you follow a certain roadmap when it comes to things like this. They look at this wedding day as like a sacrament. So they look at all this stuff, and some of them have a problem not understanding that you don't want this, you don't want that. And I've seen it several times. So you, the bride, have to be very strong and very vocal about what you want. Don't be afraid to address what you want. Because we are where we are on this planet, a lot of wedding planners cannot fathom the idea that somebody doesn't believe in their God. And they just cannot wrap their arms around that somebody does not believe in their God and does not want to mention God and does not want a prayer and those kind of things. Not as bad as it was a few years ago, but that was a big problem for a while because I'm working on the ceremony, I'm really, in a lot of ways, in my role, being more intimate with this couple than any other vendor there. Because I'm working with them to get to know them so that the words I use and the ceremony we develop is a reflection of their philosophies, who they are, their personalities. So I'm getting to know them at a level that most vendors never get to know them. I'm asking them questions that other vendors don't ask. That's one reason I get to know them that way. So well before we get to rehearsal, I already know this couple's secular. They don't want any mention of God. They don't want, sometimes it's not that they don't believe in God. Sometimes it's because maybe he's a Hindu and she's a Christian, or atheist, marry a Catholic, all kinds of situations. And so you've got to make clear up front. Don't, and I see it gets left hanging because people get put on the spot in kind of a public way because they insist on certain things that are just not comfortable to the couple. And then instead of having these conversations in private and getting all this cleared out, they put you on a spot in front of all kind of people. And that's just tacky. And I just, you know, don't assume. And I hate this about wedding planners and so forth, especially when it comes to religion. We got this major problem with assumption. You know, you're out in public, and I'll show you how strong this assumption is. And just immediately, without knowing who you're talking with, God bless you. Well, you're assuming a whole lot when you use those words, and you're pushing something on somebody that somebody may not want to hear. You know, that may be like no. I mean, so don't assume everything. If you're a wedding planner, put it on your list. Are you secular? Are you religious? Do you want a prayer, or would you rather not have a prayer? Get all that clear. Now I'll tell you, well over 50% want God. They don't want a Sunday morning altar call on their wedding, but yeah, a good percentage of the couples want a prayer. Okay, but there's a pretty large percentage that don't. There's a pretty large percentage. It surprised me when I started doing these weddings that there were so many atheists, agnostics. There's Muslim, there's Hindu. So don't assume just because you live in your environment and everybody you know, God bless you, let's pray, and that's comfortable to you, that's not comfortable to everybody. There are some Christians that don't do public praying. They take Matthew 6 very literally. Don't put them in a position publicly to pressure them. Get all this, and if you need to put that in your list, because a couple, and they're not used to planning this, they don't know all the time what questions to ask or what questions to be prepared to answer. If you're the wedding pro, this should be part of your outline to find out. And in Alabama, I think it's pretty important. What's your stand on religion? What's your views? You're going to find that most of the younger couples are going to say they're spiritual but not religious. But don't assume. Never assume. You cannot tell by looking at somebody and having a general conversation with them what their views on religion are. Don't assume that they are like everybody in your neighborhood. That if you're there to serve, then don't be afraid to ask questions. I don't know you. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I tell the couples that. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because I want to get to know you. And most couples don't know how to introduce themselves. You have to open them up and you have to ask appropriate questions. And unfortunately, what happens with a lot of wedding planners is that the questions they ask are, oh, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite kind of flower? Do you pick a theme? Do you know what's trending in weddings? Oh, I hate that one. Why would I want to do what everybody else does? This is all designed to get you to think. It's in my world, I tell the couples that I don't like repeat business. I'd like to see you make this marriage work. Okay? So let's do it right the first time. And by doing it right, it's what I mean. I want to show you all the options. I want to open up the world of weddings to you. The entire world of weddings, not just my little bubble of culture here, but the world of possibilities based upon what I learn about you, what we can do. I have played Darth Vader in a Star Wars wedding. I played the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland wedding. Remembering that this ritual does not create the marriage. It is a public declaration of what's already taken place. It's a declaration in front of your closest family and friends. It's a formality we go through. And it's a making it legal, which takes basically, well, in Alabama, a notary, in most states, a black ink pen. Everything, all these others are add-ons. The clothes you wear is an add-on. The flowers are an add-on. Exchanging rings is an add-on. All those things are add-ons. I have conducted weddings in the aisle of a Belk's department store. I've done a wedding sitting with a couple at a Waffle House, at a Subway. They're just as married as everybody else. So all these peripherals are based on your desires. They are not necessities, even to a wedding, much less a marriage. I think I've made my point there. So we've talked about the ceremony. I've used most of this time here tonight to open up the door of possibilities, a world of possibilities when it comes to how you want to make this public declaration and how you want to celebrate this love. You, first of all, realizing what this day really is, putting it balanced in regards to a lifelong marriage. When you create that balance and you can then make better decisions. You don't feel pressured like not knowing it's just, well, that's just the way we do things. That's just the way we do things. And there's nothing wrong with all this. There is absolutely, I'm not even suggesting that. Again, my whole spiel here is to open up a world of possibilities to get you to where you don't feel locked in to what you see behind me here. You can open up that world and you can celebrate in the way that you choose to celebrate. You can make that public declaration in the way that you choose to make that public declaration. Because in weddings, there's a lot of tradition, but there's no rules. All right, if you're interested in learning more, first of all, there is one of the many books I've written That kind of covers some of the things I talked about, as long as some practical tips on planning your wedding. And also, I am available right here, 888-501-6689. I travel the entire southeastern United States serving people. In fact, Saturday, tomorrow, wow, I'm going to be in Mississippi, Decatur, Mississippi, at a castle, serving a couple I've never met before. Sunday, I'm going to be in Jackson, Mississippi. I am a facilitator for SIMBIS, Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts, which is a they call it premarital counseling. I call it couples counseling session. It's not to make you not like each other. It's designed to take a good relationship, make it great. Phone number, website is my name, kelseygraham.com. And any questions, anything I can help you with, feel free to reach out to us. We serve people all over the Southeast. And yes, I'm very practical. I'm very pragmatic. I am the bride's best friend. Don't even expect a lot of vendors to like me, because I'm not trying to upsell. I'll give you suggestions. I'll tell you what's available, but I'm not trying to make a lot of money so I can take Disney World vacations or whatever. I like it when I work hard to make a couple think about what's going on and to make them think about their marriage more than their wedding. Their marriage is more important than their wedding, tremendously more important than their wedding. In Alabama, I jokingly say, if you think that your wedding creates your marriage, go look for ex-Governor Bentley, who was married 50 years. I think you get my point. The bigger the wedding, statistically, the shorter the marriage. Priorities, what's important, and you should be able to go into this day relaxed without feeling pressured, and to make it about what you want it to be. It should be a celebration, along with that public declaration. It is a very special, intimate moment, because you're doing things publicly that you're not used to doing publicly. You're saying words publicly that not easy for a lot of people to say publicly. And that lasts about 20 or so minutes. The rest of your wedding day is a party, dances, food, and so forth. It's that simple, really. Next live stream, I'm going to talk more in depth. I talked about some photography. There's several ways to do it. At your memories, blah, blah, blah. As a wedding minister officiant, I always brief the photographer as to the different components of a ceremony for them to look for. And I always tell them that the only rule I have is that they keep the bride happy. We all work for the bride. The couple and their families are paying the bill. That's who we are. And we do what they want us to do if we're professionals, and we suggest and make things roll smoothly based upon what they can want. So that's very important. But you're the boss. Let's just never forget that. The boss, 100%. If you find that you are starting to work with a wedding planner, wedding director, or any other vendor that's starting to make you uncomfortable, best suggestion is to locate a replacement before you don't put yourself in a position, because you don't like somebody, to end up with nobody that is critical to pull your wedding off. But don't be afraid to stand up and stand your ground with what you want. That's very important. Some of us, like myself, have very strong voices, and I make suggestions, but I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. So given that, come back for the next live stream I'll be doing. It will be a lot more to do with the different vendors, things to think about when you're hiring vendors, questions to ask your vendors, what to expect during the reception. And there's a lot to look at there as well. So congratulations if you've gotten engaged. Keep in mind and keep an open mind. We don't know where COVID-19 is going to take us next. A lot of people, a lot of health experts are suggesting, and what we see taking place, that we have opened up too fast. So if that's the case, there may be a postponement of weddings again. We don't know. Accept that and go accordingly. If that were to be the case, or if you are concerned, but you still have a date set and you want to go ahead with your date, but you want to do it in a safe, and you're interested in social distancing and so forth, we'll do this, but we do live stream. You can live stream yourself on Facebook. You can live stream on YouTube. We are capable of live streaming in a way to where it's password protected, and only people that you invite to view it are there to view it. And we live stream it in a way, at the end of it, you've got a video of it. And there's also chat boxes and so forth. So there are ways to continue and to keep everybody safe and distance, and they can still witness that public declaration of your love for each other. So just want to put that out there, because we don't know where this is going to go. And some people are very adamant against wearing masks and social distancing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of spikes in this cases of this virus. I've heard people that have gotten the virus, even if you survive it, it's ugly, ugly illness to go through. So all I can tell you is be thoughtful. If you're planning an August wedding, a wedding is heat, and you want it outdoors, remember that there's older people there. They're dressed up. Make sure you got some nice bucket of water. Take care of your people. Take care of your people, and still enjoy your day. So I will be back, and I don't know if I'll get this done tomorrow night or not, because I'll be getting up early Saturday and head Mississippi. But I'm going to start putting out, and I will do this different times. I'm going to try to get a certain time in the probably early evening, or maybe to offer you to call and ask questions about any components of your wedding that you're interested in asking, from your planning stages, vendors, whatever. I want to make myself available. Been involved in literally thousands of weddings throughout my lifetime, and in a dozen years, unexpectedly became involved in weddings. So I just want to make everything I've learned available to as many people as I can. So again, congratulations that you fell in love. Congratulations that you found someone you want to spend the rest of your life with. Congratulations that the marriage has happened in your heart. And congratulations that you want to make a public declaration of what's taking place in your heart. And take care. We'll talk soon, hopefully.